My significant other just made an absolute fool of me. It was a wedding that I invited him to because I was the maid of honor. But I didn't expect him to show up drinking, hands full of beer, and making a scene so much that the people who worked at the venue actually gave him a nickname. I'm not going to tell you what the nickname is yet because it's ridiculous. But that's not where the story ends. I'm sick of him. I'm sick of how he's been acting, and I'm not going to put up with it anymore. So the next day, I tell him, hey, I'm leaving you. He thinks I'm joking. He says, no, that's not going to happen. You're not going to leave me. You're never going to find someone better. And I just know that you're not going to leave me over a wedding. Well, the joke's on him. There's somebody at his work who I'm friends with, and they tell me the second that he checks into work, so I go home and I start bringing all my stuff over to my friend's house, and I'm going to leave him with an empty apartment. That's the plan, and I just know it's probably going to have a bumpy road ahead. I need to tell this story while it's still fresh because I'm sitting in an airport lounge, 3 glasses of overpriced wine deep, and I just realized I've been apologizing for someone else's behavior for four long years. So Patty called me a year and a half ago, right? Picture this. I'm in a crappy apartment kitchen making ramen at 10 o'clock at night after a 12-hour shift. I do those 3 times a week. My phone lights up with her face, the photo from when we were 15, and I thought blue eyeshadow was peak sophistication. Daniel, will you be my maid of honor? Make it gender neutral, and yes, I said, already crying on my sad noodles. Person of honor? Honor attendant? Whatever, I'm in. We've been best friends since we were literally 12 years of age, right? She was this weird theater kid who read tarot cards at lunch, and I was the weird art kid who drew everyone as anime characters. We found each other in detention, staging a one-person protest about dress code and me refusing to stand for the pledge, and just never let go. This wedding was not just an event, it was my Olympics, my Super Bowl, my final boss battle of friendship. I immediately looped Mason into everything. Every save-the-date update, every venue option, every agonizing decision between lavender and periwinkle. I thought I was being a good partner, keeping him informed and making sure he felt included since he's been my +1 to one of the most important events in my best friend's life. His first response was, do I have to wear a suit? His second response was, a year and a half away, oh, that's excessive planning. His third response, which should have been my first red flag if I had not been colorblind from love, was, I'll probably have to work. Mason's a bartender, not knocking his profession. Service industry is brutal and deserves the respect, but Mason specifically chose bartending because, in his words, I can always switch shifts, and nobody expects me to have my crap together. For the next 18 months, I was Patty's wedding Sherpa. Hauling samples, building spreadsheets, just mediating between her mother, who wanted a Catholic mass, and Janet's mother, who wanted a pagan hand fasting. Sourcing eucalyptus and bowls, and learning what the hell eucalyptus even was. And crying in David's bride's bathroom, crying in different David bride's bathroom as well, and speed eating kind bars between vending machines. I did not burden Mason with every detail. I learned early in our relationship that he had the attention span of a goldfish when it came to anything that was not directly about him. His band that had not played a gig in 2 years, or the podcast he was definitely going to start soon. But I kept him updated on the important stuff. The date circled in red in our calendar, the venue, sent him the Google map link 4 times, and the dress code, which was a cocktail formal, which I had to explain meant, not your Sublime t-shirt. The RSVP, which I filled out for the both of us because otherwise it simply would not have happened. Guys, he made jokes about wearing a bolo tie. Well, ironically, I begged him not to commit bolo. He said he would think about it like he was doing me a favor. Okay, cut to last week, 7 days before the wedding. I'm stress baking my 3rd batch of cookies. Patty did not ask me to. I just process anxiety through butter and sugar. And Mason starts this running commentary about how I must be so relieved this will be over soon. You've been so stressed. As he says, not looking up from his phone where he's watching TikTok at full volume. You'll be glad when this wedding crap is done. I blinked at him. Processing lag like dial-up internet, I said, I'm not stressed, I'm excited. My best friend is marrying the love of her life. Nah. You hate this. You've been complaining for months. When have I complained? You're always complaining about it. Oh, because I'm the person of honor. Because I'm involved in planning. Because I'm happy for her? He rolled his eyes and actually rolled them at me, like I was being dramatic for correcting his bizarre narrative about my own feelings. Whatever. I just think weddings are stupid. Expensive parties to prove something that should not need proving? Well, whose wedding hurt you? I asked, only half joking. See? You're stressed. You're just being a jerk. Well, he didn't say jerk. He said something much worse. It hung in the air like a fart in an elevator. I'd been called that name by Mason approximately 47 times in our relationship. Always when I was expressing an emotion he didn't want to deal with. The night before the wedding, literally the night before, he says, what would happen if I just did not go? I stared at him. We're in bed. I have to be up at 6 a.m. for hair and makeup, and my outfit is steamed and hanging at the door. Our hotel is booked. My parents, who were also invited because they've known Patty since she was a kid, spending every weekend at our house and expecting to see him. I said, we RSVP'd. I said it slowly, like explaining to a toddler why we don't eat crayons. Patty paid for your plates. My parents are expecting you, Linda. That's my mom, who still sends Mason birthday cards, despite him never remembering her birthday. Already texting, asking if you're sitting with them during the ceremony. He just shrugged, the shrug of a man who thinks RSVP is merely a suggestion. Like, speed limits or expiration dates on milk. I just don't see why I have to go to some random wedding where two women are marrying each other. Record scratch, freeze frame, random? Patty is my best friend. You've known her for 4 years. We go to trivia with her and Janet's every month, and Janet helped you move your couch. What the hell is your problem? They're not random. You know what I mean. I didn't actually know what he means, or maybe I did and I didn't want to. So, here's something you need to understand about Mason. He's perpetually late to everything. Not fashionably late, not apologetically late, but arrogantly late. The kind of late that says my time is more valuable than yours. He would be late to his own funeral, probably because he stopped to smoke with his dealer, Janny. Yes, that's his real name, and yes, he's 43 and still goes by Janny. So I told him the ceremony started at 1 p.m. sharp. It actually started at 4:30. So he rolls up at exactly 4:30, reeking of something he shouldn't be smoking right now, wearing a suit that looked like he'd slept in, because he probably did, and immediately asked, where's the bar? The ceremony's about to start, I said, trying to pin his little flower on while he fidgeted like a toddler at church. He says, I need a drink first. It was a long drive. It was 20 minutes from our apartment. So he disappears. I had to walk down the aisle alone, standing at the altar, trying not to think about where he was. During the ceremony, this beautiful, intimate ceremony, where Patty and Janet read vows that made everybody cry, I kept catching glimpses of him in the back, double-fisting beers from the cocktail hour that hadn't even started yet. So, when Patty and Janet were pronounced married and everybody clapped politely, tastefully, lovingly, Mason let out a "Yeah, baby," that echoed through the venue like someone had just scored a touchdown. 40 heads turned in unison. Patty laughed because she's gracious, and Janet's smile went tight. My mom looked at me with an expression I can only describe as maternal concern mixed with secondhand embarrassment. Photos were next. Family first and wedding party, and Mason appeared during the wedding party shots. Beer number who knows what in hand, trying to photobomb. The photographer, a saint, gently suggested he wait with the other guest, and Mason muttered something about stuck-up art type. Loud enough for every single person to hear. When photos wrapped, I found him at the bar. Shocking. And he immediately announced that he had to take an urgent work call. Work? You specifically requested off. You told Steve that you had a wedding. Emergency. Bars slam, they need me. It's Saturday at 3 p.m. The bar's always slammed. It's college football. Oh, I'll be quick. Save me some cake. Guys, he did not come back for cake. He didn't come back at all. The reception was magical. Patty and, well, she did these little centerpieces with succulents and fairy lights, and Janet's father, who barely speaks a lick of English, made toast that had everyone sobbing. My dad and Linda slow danced to At Last and embarrassed me in the best way possible, and the cake was 3 tiers of lavender lemon perfection. I made my speech without crying, which to me is an absolute miracle, and of course I caught the bouquet. Through it all, I smiled and deflected questions about Mason's whereabouts. I just said work emergency, until the lie felt like sandpaper inside of my mouth. At 2 a.m., I got back to our apartment. Mason was on the couch, Xbox controller in hand, wearing sweatpants. Oh hey, how was the rest of it? Where were you? I told you, work called. Turns out they didn't really needed me, but by then I couldn't remember the venue name. My phone was being weird about text messages, too. His phone was right there, on the coffee table face up, showing his Discord chat with Janny and about, something about a new Call of Duty map. You couldn't remember Rosewood Gardens, the venue we've been talking about for 18 months. The one I sent you the address for this morning. I said my phone was being weird. I stared at him. I really looked at him for the first time in years. Greasy hair he hadn't washed for the wedding, bloodshot eyes, the specific slack jaw look that he got when he was, on that smoke, just to track the conversation. This was the man I've been apologizing for and making excuses for, shrinking myself for. I'm going to bed, I said. He said, cool, want to watch something first? The next morning he was chippy. Made coffee, humming some song, acting like nothing had happened, no apology, no acknowledgement, just a vibe, as he said, well, just a vibe. We need to talk about yesterday. Well, what about it? You embarrassed me. You embarrassed yourself. You were rude to my best friends on the most important day of their lives. Oh my gosh, here we go. You're so dramatic. It was fine. I showed up, didn't I? You showed up drunk. I had 2 beers. You yelled during the ceremony. I was celebrating. Sorry for being happy for them. Oh, you left. Yeah, for work. You lied about work. Well, you're overreacting. This is why I didn't want to go. I knew you would make it all about you. Gaslighting, gatekeeping, girl boss, except he was only good at the first one. My phone buzzed. It was Patty. She says, hey babe, are you okay? Are we okay? My heart cracked. She was worried about me and about us on the day after her wedding when she should be honeymoon-brained and thinking about nothing but her new wife and their future. I typed and deleted 10 different responses before settling on, you look like an angel. So happy for both of you, love you forever. Then I looked at Mason, really looked at our relationship like you would look at expired milk, knowing it's bad but needing to confirm just how bad. For 4 years we've been together. When we met, I was 20 in undergrad, though the day drinking was personality trait, oh no, and staying out until 4 a.m. made me interesting. He was 23, bartending in a band, had his own apartment, and could roll the perfect, smoke. To baby Daniel, he was sophisticated, worldly, and he was going places. Well, now I'm 24, working full-time as a graphic designer in grad school, part-time for my MFA, paying off student loans, trying to build something of myself, and Mason is 27. He's bartending still, but has less shifts than usual, because he, quote, needs time to focus on his music. Still in the same band that hasn't played in 2 years. Still living in our apartment that I pay 60% of because of his reduced hours. Still talking about maybe going back to school someday and maybe starting that podcast, maybe. The wedding was not just an event, it was a test. A test of whether he could show up for me and support something important to me, be a partner instead of a burden for one single day. Well, he failed. He failed spectacularly. So I'm done. With the conversation, cool, me too. No, I said not the conversation, with us, with you. He laughed. He said, you're not breaking up with me over a wedding. I said, no, I'm breaking up with you over everything the wedding revealed. You don't respect me, you don't respect my friends, and you lie. When reality is inconvenient, you're almost 30, and you act like a teenager. Oh, babe, you're just being emotional. It's been a long weekend. Let's talk about it once you calm down. The patronizing tone, the dismissal, the assumption that my feelings were temporary weather instead of a climate change. I said, no, we're done. Well, you don't mean it. I packed a spend-a-night bag, and while he followed me around the apartment, cycling through narcissistic prayer, that didn't happen. Well, the wedding was fine, and if it did, it wasn't that bad. I only had a few beers. Well, it was. That's not a big deal because everyone was drinking, he says. And if it is, that's not my fault. You made me go. I didn't mean it. I was drunk, and if I did, you deserved it. You're always so uptight about your friends. I went to my friend Sarah's place, and she opened the door, took one look at my face, and said, guest room's ready, and there's wine in the fridge. We don't have to talk about it until you're ready. Well, at that moment, I thought Sarah was a real one. The next 3 days were a masterclass in Mason's manipulation playbook. First came the love-bombing text messages, like, baby, please come home, I'm sorry, I love you so much, you're my everything, my boo. Well, then the anger, he says this is messed up. You can't just leave, we have a lease together, you're crazy. Then the bargaining. What if I go to therapy and quit smoking? I'll even apologize to Patty. Well, then he threatened me. You'll never find anyone who puts up with your crap like I do. You're making a huge mistake, you'll be alone forever. Oh, then my personal favorite, I was drunk, so it doesn't count. You can't hold me responsible for drunk actions, sir. That's exactly when I should hold you responsible, hello. Here's the crappy part, we're both on the lease. In this hellscape of a city, breaking a lease costs 2 months' worth of pay plus fees. Getting one person off requires both parties' consent and a $500 administration fee, and Mason knows I can't afford to pay double the rent while finishing grad school. He's using housing as hostage. But you know what? I got creative. I called his work and made friends with Ash, the other bartender. She texts me when he's clocked in, and that's when I go to the apartment, pack what I can, and leave again. I'm doing this like it's a heist, like a reverse robbery where I'm stealing my own life back. Yesterday, I got the essentials, documents, laptop, clothing, grandma's quilt, the good coffee maker. My plants, even. He let them die out of spite. And every piece of art I've made or purchased, I took with me. He came home to a half-empty apartment and lost his mind. 63 texts in 2 hours, and I only know because my phone keeps the notification count even when blocked. Then the emails, then the Instagram DMs from his account. His band account, probably his SoundCloud if that even existed. My favorite message was, I'm willing to forgive you and move on from this if you come home now. The audacity, I mean, come on. The unmitigated gall. Linda, my mother, who's been watching this crap show unfold for years but respected my autonomy enough to keep quiet, offered her guest room. But it's 40 minutes of a drive from the campus. And I have night classes, so I'm couch surfing, rotating between friends like I'm on some underground railroad for people escaping a bad relationship. Last night, Patty and Janet had me over for dinner. They're supposed to be in honeymoon bliss, and instead they're feeding me pasta and letting me cry into their good napkin. I'm so sorry. Patty interrupted. She said, No, the wedding was perfect. You don't have to say sorry. You were perfect. Mason was a footnote. Actually, you know what? The venue staff started calling him Clap Thunder after he left. It's already a funny story. You looked beautiful, I said. Both of you. The vows destroyed me. Your dress, Patty and Janet, the suit. Oh, chef's kiss. And Janet said, we know. Refilling my wine. We're very hot and very married, and now let's talk about getting you free. They helped me draft a formal letter to the property management company. Patty's mother is a paralegal and gave me the language about constructive eviction and hostile living environment. I sent it certified mail because apparently that's legal kryptonite, and Mason responded by sending me a Spotify playlist titled Songs That Remind Me of Us. I don't listen to it, but I did screenshot it for the group chat where it was roasted with the fury of 1,000 suns. Sarah said the playlist was giving desperate, and Mike said it was giving unemployed, and Janny, different Janny, my Janny, the good Janny, said it was giving about to become internet post, and well, here we are. The property management company, after 3 certified letters and 1 very uncomfortable phone call where I used the phrase domestic situation repeatedly, They finally agreed to let me off the lease with proof of new residence and a $500 fee. $500 to buy my freedom, and it's worth every single penny. So I signed a sublet yesterday. It was a tiny bit overpriced, and the showers take forever to heat up. It's also mine, just mine and gloriously mine. Last night was my first night there. I lit a candle, ate a takeout straight from the container, and watched whatever I wanted without anyone commenting that my shows were too emotional or too complicated to follow. Mason sent one last Hail Mary email this morning saying, "I'm working on myself and I'm changing. Don't you want to see what I become?" I responded for the first and last time, "I already know who you are." And then I blocked his email too. That's it, guys. I just think you deserve someone who shows up, who stays, who claps appropriately at weddings, who can be trusted with your joy without making it about them. Yeah, and Mason even texted me from a new number while I am writing this. He said, "Can we at least talk?" So I ended it with this. No, Mason, we can't. Because I'm at the airport, about to board a plane with my chosen family, about to celebrate love that's worth celebrating, and the only sound I want to hear is appropriate volume applause when good things happen to people who deserve it. Clap thunder can get the hell out of my life.